Hi, welcome to Homestyle Woodcraft. This is James, and today we're going to be building some pantry shelves, like these. So the first step in building pantry shelves is we want to take a look at what we want to do and do a little bit of research and design work. Now, for me, this is going to be easy because I'm just going to copy this style onto this wall. So my research and design is basically just looking at that. So if you'll come a little bit closer, we're going to take a close look. So first of all, we want to take note of the kind of shelving that's used. This is a particle board shelving with a bullnose front that's pretty available in most home improvement stores. On the wall, on the back, they've used some 1x2s to build them as a support along the back, and then it's supported by those brackets. Now, although we're adding on, you could just as easily build a whole new set of shelves by copying these kinds of shelves. Now, today's video is probably not for an advanced builder, but for somebody who's just getting started. We really want to demystify the idea of building shelves. So after we do sort of our research and design and kind of decide what look we're after, then we need to start doing some measurements. So initially what I did, and I've already done this part, is I just measured the space kind of roughly to see what kind of, how much wood we would need. And then made a purchase list. So of course I just use my tape measure, and if you're new to using a tape measure, you can check out our other video about measuring wood for your projects and how to use a tape measure. But just measured this space, and this space is just under 4 feet, and I had a pretty good guess that this shelving was available at the home improvement store in 8-foot lengths. So I knew that for 2 shelves on this space I could buy 1 length of 8-foot shelving, and that was the case because I already bought it. So I knew that I needed the shelving material, 1x2s, brackets, and fasteners, and in this case I'm using wood screws. And so I measured all that out using this set of shelves as a model, and then after I measured, I made my purchase list of all the things that I would need. Now, when I got to the home improvement store, I realized that I had forgotten to take a look at what kind of fasteners I'd need for the shelving brackets. But, handy enough, on the label, it told me exactly what I needed. So that was really handy. All right, so the next step after research and design and building a purchase list and going and purchasing the materials is to cut the materials. That's what we're going to do next. So the next step is to measure the material for the cuts that we need. So in this case we have 4 different cuts on 2 different kinds of material. The first material is our 1x2s. And we've got 3 different sizes of board we need to cut. So the first one we're going to take a look at is this support piece that the bracket attaches to. And the second is up here. It's on the back wall that supports the shelving on the back side. And then we have this piece right here that supports the shelving on the side. So we're going to shift that view here, and we'll have the back piece along this wall, the side piece, and then the vertical piece for the support. Now, one thing we'll notice is these pieces are notched a little bit, just so they look a little nicer, I guess. And so we'll be duplicating that. The last cut is on the shelving piece, and I'm doing 5. And I went through and I measured at each space here to here, and what I found is that they're each a little different by like 1 or 2/16. So I'm glad that I took the time to measure each one. So I used a handy dandy tape measure and Just measure it here to here. Doing my best to keep the tape as horizontal as possible. Now when you're measuring into a corner like this, over here to my right, this is a known length on most tape measures, and on mine it's actually stamped into the tape measure. So you can see there how long that is, and you can get a more accurate measurement into the corner than if you were to, bend your tape like this. So, a little tip on how to use tape measure. So it was really handy to measure each one of these. I also measured each one of those twice to make sure, because I want a really precise fit here, so I'm going to want them to touch. These others don't need to be quite as precise because they're mostly out of sight, and if they're off by a 1/16 or 2, it's not really going to matter. Okay, next step, cutting the material. Oh, I forgot. So at the end of all that, I make a list. I call it my cut list, and it's just a list of the different sizes of the material and how many pieces I need. And so I can use that for a reference when I'm out in the shop. That is it for now. Okay, it's time to start doing the cutting. But let's talk about safety first, okay? So first of all, standard safety gear for me is eye protection, hearing protection, and a dust mask. Now today I'm not going to be wearing the dust mask because I'm outside and I'm not going to be doing a lot of cutting. If I was going to be doing a lot of cutting, or I was going to be inside the shop, I would wear a dust mask. Another consideration that we want to take into account is just evaluate your area. Make sure there's no tripping hazards. If you've got kids and they're in the area, make sure they know what you're doing so that they don't run in to the cutting area and put either them or you in danger from bumping into you. Make sure cords and stuff on the ground is all kind of out of the way so you don't trip on it and fall into the blade of any one of these tools. And so today we're going to be using the compound miter saw, the circular saw, and table saw. These are great tools, but they are power tools, and they have very fast moving saw blades, and any contact with your hands, fingers will be very dangerous. And in my opinion, I'm much more interested in keeping my fingers than completing a project. So we always want to keep things safe. One of the greatest things we can do to keep safe is just understand the cuts that we're going to make. And so before you make a cut, make sure you've thought through the process and how that's going to happen. So for example, I'm going to be cutting this 1x2, and I want to make sure that I've got the piece of wood secure, because if it's not secure, or if I have to handle it in a way that puts my hand or fingers too close to the blade, then that puts me in danger. And so I want to make sure it's secure, and then I want to think through and maybe even practice sometimes the cut to make sure that it's going to be safe. There have been times when I've been working on a project and I went through that and I realized that's not going to be a safe cut, and I don't do it because again, I want to avoid injury from one of these tools. Another consideration is the length of the wood that we're going to be working on. For example, I'm going to be working with this long piece of shelving, and it's just over 8 feet long, and so that's very unwieldy to work with. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it down. Because my shelves are just under 4 feet, I can cut these down and make kind of a crude cut, and then I'm going to go take that smaller piece of the table saw to do the finish cut. And there's two great reasons to do this. One is I can do it in a safer way because I can have better control over it. And you can see my table saw is not going to be able to accommodate an 8-foot long piece of wood. Even if I had a helper, it wouldn't be a great idea. Second, the more control I have over it, the better I can make an accurate cut. So for safety and accuracy, better have a piece of wood that you can safely manage with your setup, and you'll get better cuts all the way around. Okay, so you remember we talked about the cut list, so we want to have our cut list, and that will give us the boards we want to cut. So from our 1x2, we're going to be cutting the long support, the side support, and the vertical piece where the bracket will go. And then this long piece of shelving, I'm going to cut into the smaller shelves. So I think it's ready to start cutting. All right, so now we are ready to start installing the shelves. So we have cut and painted all the supports and the shelves. So there's going to be a support along this wall and along here, and then we'll have a vertical piece where the bracket will be attached. And then once all that's installed, we'll lay down the shelf, and then we'll fit the bracket in underneath the shelf. Now, as I was looking at these others that were already installed, they attached the supports with some finish nails from a nail gun, and I would like something a little beefier than that, so I'm going to use wood screws, just so that it makes it stronger, because we have a lot of cans on here, and I want to make sure we have a strong shelf to support the weight of the cans. So we're going to put these up here. I'm going to put it up right here. So I'm going to use a level to level it out. I found studs here and here. In common construction, the studs will be 16 inches apart. If you can't find studs to use, you can always use drywall anchors, and they have varying degrees of weight that those can support. So you can find those at your home improvement center. So we're going to get working on that, and we'll check in a little bit later. All right, so I thought I'd check in again. It is, we'll say, many hours later. I've got the supports up. On this side, on the horizontal supports, I was able to tap into studs. On this side I couldn't, so I used drywall anchors. And they were rated at 35 pounds each. Not that that was any special calculation, it's just what I happen to have. Many mistakes along the way, it's not perfect. These, I had cut too long, I had to take them all, I had to take 2 of them off and go recut them. So anyway, it is time to see if the shelves fit. So here we go. Perfect. Okay, stop. No, stand and don't video.
We call this B-roll, Dad.
All right. Are we videoing?
Yeah.
Okay, so after much finagling, we got it in this far. So hopefully I'm gonna try to. It fits just barely. I got that little touch-up paint over here, and we'll be good. All right, so here it is. We're all done. So after the last section of our video, we realized that some of our shelves didn't fit. They were just a little bit too big. So we took them back out to the table saw, and we cut off about 1/16 of an inch, just the width of the blade. the table saw, and that enabled us to fit. So these are super tight fitting in here. When we brought them back, we put them up and then we put the brackets on. We had some trouble with that because the brackets wouldn't fit, so we had to adjust the shelves up a little bit. We had to tilt them up to get them square so the brackets would fit. And we screwed those in. And then, to give it a more finished look, we put some of this adhesive caulk along a lot of the seams that are visible. We let that dry, and then we painted it the same color as the shelves and the wall. And what that does is it covers up a lot of the mistakes. Like if you have a big gap between the wall and the board, it helps fill that in, cover it up, and give it a more finished look. And so here it is. We've added about 50% more storage in our pantry, and that's going to be really useful. This has been a great project, and it's a good one for those who want to get their feet wet doing some home improvement, because a lot of the errors that you're going to make that I made in this project are covered up by the project itself. Like if you put too many holes in the wall, you cover it up with the supports, and in the end it's going to have shelf liner put on it and then a lot of food, and nobody's ever going to know. So thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed watching, we'd encourage you to subscribe and enjoy some of our other project videos. Thanks.